Hi, it's Steve Bustin from Get Your Voice Heard here. I wanted to just talk a little bit about some of the best practice for remote team communications in healthcare. Because a lot of us are working in teams that are spread out across a number of sites, quite possibly internationally. Now, firstly, I think if you do nothing else, make sure that your team has the right kit for effective communications. For example, make sure they have laptops that are powerful enough to cope with the demands of streaming, of live events, Zoom, all those sorts of things. Make sure they have a decent webcam, not just necessarily the one in their laptop. A decent microphone, like the one I'm wearing here, especially if they're going to be talking to clients. A good microphone is probably more important than a good camera. I'd make sure they have the right lighting, that they know how to use it, and also make sure that they have been trained in how to use all this kit and how to present on camera. If you want training on how to present for online events, give me a shout, something I can help with. But today I want to give you 3 tips that I think should help to establish best practice for remote team communication in your healthcare organisation. Number 1, don't think of, let alone refer to your team as remote. Remote suggests cut off, isolated, siloed. All the things that you want to avoid if you are really trying to bring together a team. So you want to be using language that reinforces the idea of a cohesive group of people working together, collaborating. The language here does matter. Perhaps they are a dispersed team, or as the team behind WordPress are described, a distributed team. I think they're both less negative terms than remote. I also quite like the phrase diffuse team. Our team are diffused across the country or across the world. I think that's quite a nice way of putting it. Secondly, I think it's also worth saying you're not a virtual team either. I've heard that phrase a lot, unless you are actually working in virtual reality or you are virtually a team. I don't think so. So, second main point, make sure that you are listening. Now, if you have seen me speak at an event or you've been to one of my workshops or I've done some coaching with you, you will probably have heard me refer to the Shannon Weaver model. It's a model of communication that I use quite a lot in my work. And in particular, there's something in there called the feedback loop, i.e. how are you listening? And are you actually listening? So make sure that there is a way for you to listen to what people are saying to you, whether that's in writing or face-to-face or online. If you are listening online, don't multitask. Go full screen, make eye contact. Turn off the distractions, turn off the notifications. You do not need to check your emails while listening to somebody. And in fact, if the person that you are talking to can see that your eyeline is elsewhere, or, God forbid, can hear you tip-tapping on your keyboard as you're typing, they know full well you're not listening. Similarly, don't mute yourself while you're in a conversation with somebody, because it breaks the conversation, particularly if you then have to reach for the unmute button. But they'll be able to see that you've muted yourself. Again, they're going to think, what are they hiding? They're not concentrating on what I'm saying. Make notes as you listen to somebody. Ask questions of clarification as you need to. And actually think about how you're going to respond to a point. Repeat back what you've heard to make sure you've been understood. You know, can I just check? This is what I'm hearing. Just let me make sure that I've heard this right. Is this what you're saying? Quite frankly, this is the third point. Don't just be a good manager. Be a decent human being. Empathy is key when you're communicating. Care about the person, the individual, their situation, their well-being. Particularly if you contact somebody for the first time for a while. Maybe it's the first time in a week or so or a few days. Before you dive into work, ask how they are. Ask how things are going, not just about work. The inconsequential is quite important, and it's a really lovely way to build rapport. Ask about their children, their parents, their garden, what they've been watching, all those sorts of things. And be genuinely interested in their responses. Make a conversation. Don't just ask a question, get an answer, go, okay, thanks, and move into work stuff. Have a genuine conversation with them. I think it's also worth thinking about how often you can communicate with your team members. I think little and often is a better way to build rapport and a relationship than one huge long call once a week. I would rather have 4 short calls of 10-15 minutes than one call of an hour or 90 minutes. But at the same time, you do need to make sure that the team you're communicating with know what you're working on as well as what they're working on. So keep them up to speed on your tasks and make sure they're aware of the bigger picture and how their work fits into this team effort. When you have had a communication with somebody online, I would follow up with a mail, quite frankly an email, outlining any action points, reiterating any praise that you gave them in the conversation, and particularly if you offered any support or help, or you're going to send them a resource, make sure that goes in the email as well. I'd also say let the team member end the call. Don't shut them down or tell them that, okay, the call's over, I don't have any more time, because there may well be something they are putting off talking about. Let them decide when they're finished. And that way it actually feels like a much more natural conversation that they're in control of, and that's important. So those are just a few elements to help you make up best practice in remote, or should I say dispersed, team communication. We could go into so much more depth in all of these, and actually I will probably do so in future videos. But if you wanted to talk through any of the points I've raised here, maybe it's something that you think that you or your team needs help with, do get in touch. I'm very happy to chat it through. You can email me on steve@getyourvoiceheard.co.uk. I'm on all the social media platforms, Steve Bustin, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you for watching.